Throughout history, arts and entertainment have been used as a way to express ourselves, tell stories, give us relief from oppression, and as an escape from the harsh reality of daily struggles. As history started to repeat itself in the early 1920s, a distraction was needed, and we got the Harlem Renaissance, which became a social and artistic explosion and a mecca for black culture. The Harlem Renaissance is widely considered as the golden age for African American culture, showcasing literature, music, art, and live performances. The Harlem Renaissance was a rebirth of black excellence. Similar to the Harlem Renaissance, black sitcoms had also seen a rebirth after what seemed like an eternity with an absence of black faces on TV screens. In the 70s, we had Sanford and Son, Good Times, and The Jeffersons. In the 80s, we had The Cosby Show, and in the 90s, we had Fresh Prince, Martin, A Different World, and Family Matters. TV executives noticed that these shows were not only enjoyed by blacks, but they can also be enjoyed by almost anyone. Despite the success that these shows had, seeing a black lead on screen was still a rarity. It wasn't until the introduction of the UPN and the WB network where we got to see another renaissance of black sitcoms on television. But just as surprisingly it came, the networks and its black sitcoms disappeared. Here's why UPN and its black sitcoms came to an end. Before UPN and the WB launched, Fox was a network that saw the trend of successful black sitcoms and capitalized on it with shows like In Living Color, Martin, Living Single, Rock, and The Sinbad Show. The shows on Fox were unapologetically black. Martin was a black show. The Cosby Show, on the other hand, was a family that just happened to be black. It may come as a surprise to many, but UPN wasn't the first network to implement shows with predominantly black casts. The WB had made it a priority. After Fox had canceled all of its black-led sitcoms in the late 90s, most of the network's executives jumped ship to a new upcoming network, the WB, where they would try to appeal to black viewers. The first show to debut on the WB was The Wayans Brothers, and it set the tone for what the network was trying to be. The show was a breakout success and immediately renewed for a second season. Following The Wayans Brothers, the WB premiered Robin Townsend's The Parenthood, and later picked up Sister Sister, which was canceled by ABC. In August of 1996, we would then get sitcoms starring Steve Harvey and Jamie Foxx. Both Harvey and Foxx began making names for themselves in their respected markets. Harvey coming off of his stint as the host of Showtime at the Apollo, and Foxx was then known as a comedic actor who got his start on In Living Color. In less than 2 years, the WB had cemented itself in becoming the go-to place for black entertainment. However, this formula wouldn't last long as the network decided to expand by adding several shows that would cater to white teenagers. Shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Dawson's Creek, Charm, and Seventh Heaven would become super popular and prove to be more profitable. These teen dramas are what became priority for the network, shifting its focus from black audiences to white ones. Around the same time, UPN took the WB's formula and started to focus on black audiences. UPN was launched in January of 1995, and one of the first shows to debut on the network was Moesha, starring Brandy Norwood. Moesha was originally ordered as a pilot for CBS's 1995 to 1996 television season, but was passed on by the network. So UPN took the opportunity and picked it up as a mid-season replacement. Moesha not only went on to become the biggest success at the time for UPN, lasting 6 seasons, but the series also paved the way for its spin-offs. Moesha was the first hit for UPN, averaging 3.5 million viewers per episode. The series would achieve a ratings high of 4 million a week by its 3rd season. The show was an undeniable success for the network. They ordered a spin-off series following one of its supporting characters, Kim Parker, played by Countess Vaughn. The spin-off would be called The Parkers, and Vaughn would be joined by comedian Monique in his starring role. The Parkers would be another hit for UPN, as its first season would average about 2.6 million a week. By the time the series ended in 2004, its audience had grown to 3.3 million viewers. In addition to Moesha and The Parkers, UPN had comedies like In the House, Malcolm and Eddie, and The Hughleys to complete their lineup. Familiar names like LL Cool J, Malcolm Jamal Warner, Eddie Griffin, and D.L. Hughley helped sell those shows. UPN had become a savior for some shows that were canceled by major networks. In the House originally aired on NBC for its first 2 seasons. After low ratings, the network picked it up, where they aired an additional 2 seasons. The same thing happened with The Hughleys after being canceled by ABC after its 2nd season. UPN stepped in and hosted another 2 seasons before it was canceled again. UPN had become known as the Black Network. From one perspective, it appeared that UPN found its audience. Their Monday night lineup, showcasing a night of black sitcoms, would forever be remembered. But a look inside the UPN offices tells a different story. Within 2 years of UPN's launch, Paramount and Viacom bought a 50% stake into UPN from Chris Kraft Television in a deal that was worth around $160 million. According to The New Yorker, as a result of the lack of viewership, UPN started to lose money and reportedly lost around $800 million by the year 2000, only 5 years after its launch. Why was UPN losing money? How was this even possible? Simple. There was no consistency when it came to UPN's audience. A 2003 Deseret article would point out UPN's programming model would be a reason why the network wasn't holding on to viewers. The article states, UPN is focusing on attracting viewers ages 18 to 34, and they're very proud of the minority audience that watches the network's programming. But among the network's struggles is the fact that it has a very little audience flow from one night to the next. The fact that UPN has 5 different audiences on 5 different nights. Viewers who watch the black sitcoms on Mondays don't watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer on Tuesdays, who don't watch Enterprise on Wednesdays, who don't watch WWE Wrestling on Thursdays, who don't watch the UPN movie on Fridays. While many at home love the black sitcoms on Monday nights, the network behind the scenes was losing money. Going into the 2000s, UPN welcomed shows like Girlfriends, One-on-One, Half and Half, All of Us, and Eve, shows that would resonate with a black audience. Girlfriends would go on to become the network's longest-running sitcom, lasting 6 seasons and 137 episodes, before moving to the CW, where it ran for another 2 years. The ratings for these sitcoms did well for UPN, but they still paled in comparison when it came to sitcoms on the major networks. Despite the launch of more black shows, UPN continued to lose money. In 2003, UPN's comedy lineup consisted of The Parkers, Eve, Girlfriends, and Half on Monday nights, with One-on-One and All of Us airing back-to-back on Tuesdays. All of those shows averaged around 3 to 3.5 million viewers an episode. Their competition varied throughout the years. Girlfriends and Half aired opposite of Everybody Loves Raymond and 2.5 Men on CBS. For the 2003 to 2004 TV season, Raymond was the number 10 show on TV, getting just over 17 million viewers an episode compared to Girlfriends at 3.6 million, which ranked as the 128th show. That same year, One-on-One averaged 2.9 million viewers. Its competition, That 70s Show, averaged 10 million viewers. The Bernie Mac Show would often compete with UPN sitcoms as well, averaging 7.5 million viewers during the 2003 to 2004 season. Although UPN shows would most likely have been canceled if they aired on the major networks, they were able to survive being outside of the Big Four. In 2005, UPN scored its highest rated series in several years, Everybody Hates Chris. In its debut season, Everybody Hates Chris averaged 4.2 million viewers, becoming the highest rated comedy on UPN and the second highest rated show overall, only behind America's Next Top Model. Everybody Hates Chris premiered on UPN on September 22, 2005, and took no time in becoming an instant critical hit and a fan favorite. The American Film Institute selected Everybody Hates Chris as one of the best 10 television series of 2007, saying that the show provides a very real look at growing up in America, a challenge that demands a discussion of race and class often absent from television today. After its first season, the show won Outstanding Comedy Series at the NAACP Image Awards, and Tashina Arnold took home the award for Outstanding Actress in a Comedy Series that same year. Unfortunately, the high ratings of Everybody Hates Chris wasn't enough to save the declining UPN network. In January of 2006, however, UPN and the WB announced they were officially shutting down, and a new broadcast network that would operate as a joint partnership between the two would form called the CW. The move came as a result of both networks losing money. It was announced that only 6 UPN shows would make the transition to the CW: Veronica Mars, Everybody Hates Chris, Girlfriends, America's Next Top Model, All of Us, and WWE SmackDown. Ratings for those shows decreased even further, when the network switch became official. Everybody Hates Chris lost over 1.5 million viewers when the second season debuted on the CW, and Girlfriends lost nearly 1 million viewers. The entire audience didn't make the transition from the UPN network to the CW. By 2008, the CW had been on air for 2 years, and Everybody Hates Chris was the last scripted show from UPN still standing. The show was paired with The Game, a spinoff of Girlfriends that made its debut on the CW in fall of 2006. Now, it's been nearly 15 years since the CW launched, and none of its programming reflects a diverse audience like UPN and the WB did in the late 90s and early 2000s. Supernatural is the only series left from either network, and most of its show is rooted in the DC superhero universe, catering towards white teens. In a 2019 interview with Shadow and Act, star of Half and Half, Essence Atkins, would further explain why many of UPN's black sitcoms came to an end when the CW was created. When you're the number one, number two show on a network, and then the network just dissolves and gets bought out and becomes something else, it's not the first time that a network has built their wealth on black content, and then slowly but surely goes through a gentrification process. We, as black audiences, we are incredibly loyal. We have a lot of buying power, and so markets capitalize on that. What seemed to be the pattern was that they would get their hit white show, and then they would slowly but surely eradicate the directives. That leaves a big deficit in terms of us being able to see our own stories, believing in your own story, and amassing an audience to the point where you become undeniable. For the Harlem Renaissance, the end began with the market crash of 1929 and the Great Depression. By the mid-1930s, many pivotal Harlem residents had moved on to seek work elsewhere. As both the Harlem Renaissance and UPN are memories of the past, their impact and influence are unquestioned. Just as the Harlem Renaissance served as a reawakening of black entertainment and art, so was UPN. UPN came at a time where networks were overlooking black sitcoms and the black audience. UPN broke that mold. When the network ended, there was a huge void in black primetime sitcoms, a void that just recently been filled with shows like Blackish, Atlanta, and Insecure. But we still have yet to recapture the essence and representation of what an all-black lineup provided.